committee meeting. The quorum is present, so we can proceed here. The meeting record will remain open for 5 legislative days so that members might submit any material that they wish to be included therein. There are a number of items that we have on our docket today. Actually, I think we have 8 different items. We're going to be talking about transferring the House Safe program, updating voucher documentation standards, updating the National Gallery of Art boundaries, the Gold Star Families Voices Act, reauthorizing the sound and recording film preservation programs of the Library of Congress, among other items, permitting the United States Capitol Police to accept certain property from other federal agencies and to dispose of certain property in its possession, the Library Modernization Act, and amending the Federal Election Campaign Act of '71. Our committee is charged with oversight of the operations of the House, which includes the responsibility to ensure that the institution remains open and accountable to the American taxpayers. Additionally, of course, we strive to modernize the House where possible. This is not a static environment. It's quite dynamic, actually. It's requiring us to constantly review and to revise our policies to best meet the unique needs of the legislative branch. And as we say, the largest room is always a room for improvement. Over the past year, the members of our committee have worked in conjunction with the House Committee on Ethics, with House leadership, and our support offices on a number of updates to strengthen and modernize the regulations governing official expenses. These rules, which are periodically updated in the member handbook, exist to ensure that members operate within the framework of established House rules and guidelines. So our first resolution today transfers the management of the House Safe program from the Chief Administrative Officer to the House Sergeant at Arms. Members, of course, can request a safe for their office, and now the Sergeant at Arms will control the oversight of the combination access and inventory. The second committee resolution is to approve updates to the House's voucher documentation standards. These codified standards, which incorporate input from the House CAO, the House Inspector General, and the member office, financial points of contact, were finalized after a complete review of existing voucher standards and practices. They update existing regulations, they reflect current practice, and they remove outdated terminology. The objective here is to ensure that the required documentation is provided when spending taxpayers' dollars. The next step is ensuring that all offices understand these updates, and so after passage, all of the CAO's financial personnel will receive training to guarantee that these newly implemented standards are followed. Additionally, we'll be hosting educational briefings and trainings for the financial administrators in our member offices, our committee, through our committees, of course, in the House support offices. Next on our list of bills is legislation related to the National Gallery of Art. H.R. 5160 updates existing statute that defines the policing boundaries of the National Gallery of Art's buildings and grounds. The updates include the former Corcoran Gallery of Arts buildings, the Mellon Foundation, and any leased space the gallery requires for their operation. This language mirrors the authority already provided for the Smithsonian Police Force. After that, we will take up legislation for the Gold Star Family Voices Act. This updates the Library of Congress Veterans Oral History Project that was created by Congress in 2000. The project's mission is to collect, preserve, and make accessible American war veterans' accounts of events. Currently, submissions are limited to first-hand veteran accounts. This piece of legislation was championed by Representative Chris Smith of New Jersey. This bill will allow the immediate family members of veterans who died as a result of their wartime service or were MIA to provide stories on behalf of their relatives who gave their lives for their country. It's received the support of American Gold Star Mothers Incorporated, which is a group of mothers who have lost a son or daughter in service of our great nation. And I think this is an important addition that will certainly only enhance the Veterans History Project, which marked its 100,000th veteran account this year. The next bill, introduced by our ranking member, Bob Brady, it reauthorizes the sound recording and film preservation boards and foundations of the Library of Congress. H.R. 4092 extends the sunset dates for the Library's National Recording Preservation Board and the National Recording Preservation Foundation, as well as the National Film Preservation Board and National Film Preservation Foundation through the year 2026. These sound recordings and films provide a tremendous amount of value when preserving our past, present, and future. These artistic works are snapshots of a generation's culture, ideas, dreams, and innovations that make up our nation's heritage. Then, the next agenda item updates current U.S. code to permit that the U.S. Capitol Police can accept certain surplus property from other federal agencies. Additionally, it allows of them to dispose of certain property, such as unclaimed, lost, and found items which have been left by visitors in the U.S. Capitol and congressional buildings as well. H.R. 4733, introduced again by Ranking Member Brady, will modify U.S. Code and model its program after the executive branch property regulations. Then we are going to move on to a bill introduced last week. Myself and Ranking Member Brady, as well as our committee's Vice Chair, Greg Harper, H.R. 5227, the Library of Congress Modernization Act of 2016, grants the National Library Service for the Blind, under the jurisdiction of the Library of Congress, the ability to provide greater access to Braille resources, specifically digital Braille readers and materials. Increasing this access is of significant importance in a creative and innovative use of today's modern technology. Additionally, the bill authorizes the creation of the National Collection of Stewardship Fund, intended to ease the challenges the library faces with its collection and storage backlog of material and infrastructure needs. Existing appropriated funds can be allocated in order to assist with applying sufficient resources for the library needs. And then the last item, we sort of packed in a number of them here today, is H.R. 4734, a bill introduced again by Ranking Member Brady to amend the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971 in regard to those who might distribute campaign funds for a candidate's federal election campaign. Under current federal law, only the campaign treasurer is authorized to disperse campaign funds, and that includes dispersing these funds in the event the candidate should pass away. Should this bill become law, it would allow candidates running for federal office the opportunity to designate an additional individual, separate from the campaign treasurer, who would be authorized to distribute campaign funds in the event of the death of the candidate. So I certainly want to thank all the members for being here today. A lot of different items on the agenda today, and so many of them certainly in a bipartisan effort to ensure that the right policies are happening here and positively impact this House as an institution. This time, I'd like to recognize Ranking Member Mr. Brady from Pennsylvania for his opening comment.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to say thank you for having this hearing and moving these bills forward.
Any other member wish to make an opening statement? Okay. I will now call before the committee our first agenda item, the Committee Resolution 114, instructing the House Chief Administrative Officer to submit a plan for the transfer of the House SAFE program to be managed by the House Sergeant of Arms Security Office. Without objection, the first reading of the resolution is dispensed with. The resolution is considered read and open for amendment at any point. This is, as I mentioned, a common sense transfer of responsibility over the management of this specific office equipment. Any comment from Mr. Brady?
Yes, Madam Chair. Support the committee's resolution and makes sense to move jurisdiction of the SAFE program to the Sergeant at Arms because they are expert in handling sensitive and classified information. I'm glad that we could work together to bring a common sense measure that ensures the continued maintenance of the SAFE program. Thank you.
Appreciate the gentleman's comments. Any other member wish to comment? If not, I move the committee adopt the committee resolution. The questions on the motion to adopt the resolution. All members who are in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Motion is agreed to, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Item 2. I now call before the committee our next agenda item, the committee resolution updating the voucher documentation standards. Without objection, the first reading of the resolution is dispensed with, and the resolution is considered read and open for amendment at any point. These documentation standards have not been updated actually since 2010, and the updates included within the committee resolution codify these standards with the existing regulations, reflect current practice, and removes outdated terminology. Any comment from Mr. Brady?
Madam Chair, I support the long overdue strengthening of the voucher documentation standard and urge the adoption of the resolution.
Any other member like to offer comments or an amendment to the resolution?
Mr.
Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you to Ranking Member Brady and this entire committee. As somebody who used to actually file the vouchers as a member of the congressional staff for one of our colleagues, these updates I think are overdue, and I think they're going to go a long way in ensuring that the House processes more closely resemble documentation standards in the private sector. So thank you all for your assistance. I'd like to especially thank Ms. Lofgren for helping us go through this process just a few short months ago. I yield back.
I certainly want to thank both Mr. Davis and Ms. Lofgren for all of the work that they did on this. It was many, many hours, and I think the institution will be so much better for it. Recognize it, gentlelady.
Just to add that it's good to see the follow-up from the work that we did on the task force, and I yield back.
Any other member? If not, I move the committee adopt the committee resolution. The questions on the motion to adopt the resolution. All members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. We now call before the committee our next agenda item, which is H.R. 5160, a bill to amend Title 40, United States Code, to include as part of the buildings and grounds of the National Gallery of Art any buildings and other areas within the boundaries of any real estate or other property interests acquired by the National Gallery of Art. Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill is considered read and open for amendment at any point. The National Gallery of Art recently acquired new properties, and this measure updates the respective U.S. Code to include those properties within their policing boundaries. Recognize my ranking member, Mr. Brady, for any statement he may have.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I concur with your statement on this legislation, and I urge members to vote in favor of the legislation.
Any other members have comments or amendments? If not, I move the committee favorably report the bill to the House. The questions on the motion. All members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Now call before the committee our next agenda item, H.R. 4111, Gold Star Families Voices Act. Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill is considered read and open for amendment at any point. Again, I believe the inclusion of these accounts from the loved ones of those who have given their lives in the service of our nation will only enhance the library's Veterans History Project, which is a fantastic project, quite frankly. And just on a note here, on Sunday, actually, we had an event, excuse me, an event in my district where I was able to give a commemorative pin to over 300 Vietnam veterans. Really, it was one of the best things I think I've ever been involved in since I've been a member of Congress. But there are two of those individuals who were part of my particular videotaping that we did for the Veterans History Project. One fellow in particular, who's now 82, 83 years old, I think he spent 5.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton. There's 123 of those guys, and John McCain, Sam Johnson, there are 123 of those guys. He's one of them, and he's part of my Veterans History Project. But I think most of the members have done these, and it's a fantastic way to archive this kind of history for future generations. So I think this is an important part of that. And I would ask Mr. Brady if he has any comments.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One of our greatest national treasures is our veterans. I have over 28,000 veterans in my district, and each one of these veterans and their families have powerful stories that should be recorded for future generations. That is why this legislation is about, and that is why I'm pleased to support it. In the 106 Congress, I was the original co-sponsor of Veterans Oral History Project. The Veterans Oral History Project allowed for American veterans to submit their first-hand experiences of their services to our country through audio and video recordings. In addition, American veterans and their families of deceased veterans may still participate by submitting veteran memorabilia such as diaries or letters that the veterans may have written during wartime. The legislation before us would expand on that work by allowing the immediate family members of deceased veterans that died in conflict and were missing in action to submit audio, video recordings of their second or third-hand accounts of their family's members' life as a veteran. I thank the Chair for considering this measure today and hope that we continue to work with the Library of Congress to guarantee that we preserve as many of these important stories as possible, and I urge my colleagues to support this measure.
Thank the gentleman. Any other member want to offer comments or amendment? If not, I move the committee favorably report the bill to the House. The questions on the motion. All members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Motion is agreed to. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. We now call before the committee our next agenda item, which is H.R. 4092, again a measure to reauthorize the sound and recording film preservation programs of the Library of Congress and for other purposes. Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill is considered read and open for amendment at any point. This bill extends the sunset dates, which are currently set to expire at the end of the year, for the library's National Recording Preservation Board and the National Recording Preservation Foundation, as well as the National Film Preservation Board and National Film Preservation Foundation. The measure extends each of these authorities of the boards and the foundations through the year 2026. I will note again that these boards and foundations do a tremendous amount of work to preserve what is considered a significant portion of our nation's heritage. They seek to preserve these works for posterity, and I'm pleased to see their continued function. I now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Brady, for any statement he may have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since it's my bill, I'm definitely for it. I was chairman when we did this last time, and I was for it then, too. I support this program that will expire September 30th. With minimal cost to taxpayers, the library is working with interesting private organizations, state and local governments, and others in every state to identify, preserve, and make accessible numerous significant films and sound recordings that will likely otherwise be lost forever. This is a simple reauthorization of an important program that is working. We should support it. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Any other member wish to offer comments or an amendment? If not, I move the committee favorably report this bill to the House as well. The questions on the motion, all of the members in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. I now call before the committee our next agenda item, H.R. 4733, a bill to permit the United States Capitol Police to accept certain property from other federal agencies and to dispose of certain property in its possession. Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill is considered read and open for amendment at any point. This bill updates the current U.S. Code to allow the U.S. Capitol Police to accept certain surplus items, as well as to dispose of certain property, such as unclaimed lost and found items, which has been left by visitors, either at the U.S. Capitol or congressional buildings, from the department's possession. I would recognize our ranking member, Mr. Brady, if he has any statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate you including this measure for consideration today. While the proposed legislation may not be the most serious problem confronting America today, it responds to a formal legislative request, and the committee owes the police its attention, and I support this resolution.
Thank the gentleman. Any other member wish to offer an amendment or comment on the bill? Yes. Gentleman from
The only comment
California.
I would make is to thank the Capitol Police. I've had such great service here. I really appreciate the work that they do, and I hope that you take that back to them. Thank you.
Thank you. I move the committee favorably report this bill to the House. Questions on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Motion is agreed to. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. I now call before the committee our next agenda item, H.R. 5227, the Library of Congress Modernization Act of 2016. Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill is considered read and open for amendment at any point. This bill provides updates to the library's authorization. One wonderful aspect of this bill is that it paves the way for the National Library Services for the Blind to provide greater access to Braille resources, especially digital Braille readers and materials. Increasing this access to the great works housed at the library, I think, is of significant importance, and it's an innovative use of today's modern technology. The bill will also authorize the creation of a National Collection Stewardship Fund intended to ease the challenges the library faces with its collection and storage backlog of material infrastructure needs. This fund should be able to be filled by transferring appropriated dollars from existing funds to assist in applying sufficient resources for library needs. I recognize our ranking member, Mr. Brady, for any statement he may have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was pleased to co-sponsor your bill. This bill includes 3 of the 5 provisions of my H.R. 4093 that I introduced last year at the library's request, and I wish my colleagues would support it too. Since 2 provisions, H.R. 4093, did not make it into this bill, I've introduced a new bill carrying them and hope we will consider that bill at the next markup. One or both of these provisions to improve the library's gift authority and revolving funds have passed before but has not gone the distance. I believe we should take another look. In the meantime, I strongly support this bill. Thank you for bringing it forward, and I yield back.
Thank the gentleman, and I certainly commit to working with him for the other provisions that he's just mentioned. Any other member like to offer an amendment or comment? If not, I move the committee favorably report this bill to the House. And the questions on the motion. All members in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Now call before the committee our next and our final agenda item for the markup before we go into our hearing, and this is H.R. 4734, to amend the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971. This bill will allow candidates running for federal office the opportunity to designate an additional individual, separate from the campaign treasurer, who would be authorized to distribute campaign funds in the event of the death of the candidate. Without objection, the first reading of the bill is dispensed with, and the bill is considered read and open for amendment at any point. I recognize our ranking member, Mr. Brady, for any statement that he wishes to give.
Madam Chair, first, thank you for including H.R. 4734 among the other bills for consideration today. This is a bill to amend the Federal Election Campaign Act. The bill allows a candidate for federal office to designate someone to disperse their campaign funds in the event of his or her death. The federal candidate will be able to designate this person by filing the appropriate form with the FEC and could change the designee at any time. Our friend from North Carolina, Walter Jones, has championed this proposal for many years. I was pleased that he worked with me this year to get the measure reintroduced. This bill is familiar to the committee. Should we report this bill favorably, it will be the fourth time it's been sent to the floor, where it passed on 3 previous occasions. Each time the Senate declined to act on it. What they did, because it was such a good bill, they kept on loading other things into it, and we couldn't get it passed. I hope the fourth time is a charm. This is a simple, common sense fix for a minor flaw in our campaign finance laws. It provides clear guidance to those charged with the financial responsibility over candidates' funds while preserving the intentions of the candidate in the event of his or her death. I'm happy to support this bill, and I look forward to it finally becoming law. Madam Chair, I have my own experience with it with a treasurer. When I first got elected, we all want to have the optics right and put in a lawyer, and no disrespect to lawyers, but lawyers are lawyers, or an accountant, and to look good. And then after about a year or so, I found out that my treasurer was allocating funds to some other people that I didn't want to have happen while I was still alive. Imagine what would happen if I wasn't. So nobody wants to really put a spouse or a family member with a person with the same name as a treasurer, again, because of the optics. This allows us to do that, and that person has no say whatsoever on dispersing of funds on any way, shape, or form while we're still alive. But in the event of, unfortunately, of our death, which nobody gets out of this business alive, it can happen while we're in office, and that person that we designate would know who we want to, what charities we want to give our money to, what candidates we want to support, or who we may or may want to give it back. So I do believe this is a time that we're going to push as hard as we can to have the Senate hear it and try to get this done that benefits all of us. And thank you again for bringing this up, and I yield back.
Thank the gentleman very much, and I certainly concur in everything that he said. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of these federal candidate accounts are worth a lot of money, and you certainly want to make sure that if God forbid something happens, that you do have a treasurer who's going to be able to disperse the remaining funds in a way that the candidate would have wanted it to go to, like you say, the charities that you felt strongly about, or office holders, et cetera. So I think it is a common sense bill, although I am stunned to hear you say that the Senate actually loaded the thing up and it couldn't move. Kidding. Anyway, I certainly support this as well. Is there any other member that wishes to, yes?
Yes,
Mr.
I
Harper.
just wanted to remind everyone that lawyers are people too.
What kind of people?
You're surrounded by.
All right, gentlemen. Any other member? Okay, if not, I move that the committee favorably report the bill to the House. Questions on the motion? All the members that are in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the motion of the chair? The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. I would ask unanimous consent that the staff be authorized to make technical and conforming changes to the measure the committee just considered. Without objection, so ordered. And this concludes today's markup. Without objection, the markup is, this part of the meeting is adjourned. And we will have the chief come in and start with our hearing. I now call to order the Committee on House Administration for today's hearing on the U.S. Capitol Police. The hearing record will remain open for 5 legislative days so that members might submit any materials that they wish to be included. Quorum is present, so we might proceed. We're meeting today to hear from the new U.S. Capitol Chief of Police, Matt Veterosa. And as a committee, Chief, we certainly want to congratulate you on your appointment, and we are so looking forward to continuing to work with you shoulder to shoulder. So we appreciate you coming. He's going to be talking, of course, today about his vision, his direction for the Capitol Police moving forward. Some of the specific items we hope to discuss today include the Capitol Police's budgets, their priorities, recent security events, respective actions taken, as well as the Capitol Police security initiatives, both current and future. The Capitol Police is a law enforcement agency with a very unique mission, certainly. They're charged with protecting and serving the U.S. Capitol, the seat of our nation's democracy. And this is an institution, of course, the physical symbols of our free society. Unfortunately, our institution of freedom and democracy also is a target. So there will always be need for security restrictions, but a complete ban on access would be extremely detrimental to the institution. The American people need to be able to access and to meet with their members of Congress. Since Congress created the U.S. Capitol Police in 1828, they've worked very hard to fulfill this dual mission of safety and accessibility, and we certainly understand that this is no small task. Each of us, members, staff, and visitors alike, have the utmost respect for the men and women who serve and protect our nation's Capitol. We're holding today's hearing as part of our committee's responsibility for oversight and to review the safety and security of the Capitol and its facilities. Our last hearing, actually, with the Capitol Police was in May of 2015, and today the committee will hear from the new chief on the progress that's been made, his vision to continue to develop the force, the goals and priorities for the operation of the Capitol Police. Our committee, of course, works with the Capitol Police on a daily basis to ensure that they have the tools that they need, the authority, and the support that they need to keep our Capitol safe and secure for all. The Capitol Police are responsible for reviewing security protocols necessary to keep the Capitol safe and to ensure that those protocols are tested and deployed against any threats that we might face. As with any law enforcement organization, the responsibility for meeting the mission begins and ends at the top. And that responsibility now rests with Chief Veterosa. The Chief understands the security needs of the Capitol complex. Chief has served in a number of roles within the Capitol Police since 1986. He's seen firsthand how new and variable threats have only increased over the years. And while there are some sensitive aspects about the operations and capabilities of the Capitol Police, there certainly are a number of items that we would like to discuss and receive an update as well. Certainly about some of the various incidents that had happened. I know we've had an opportunity, Chief, to talk, I think, privately with all of the members here about the shooting incident that occurred at the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center. And by the way, that I will just say before you even get a chance to say that your staff, your Capitol Police, that thing happened by the book. They did such a fantastic job of reacting and responding. I mean, that thing, you could write a book. That thing was perfect to that response. As well, we had all of these protests, week-long protests that happened recently here. We might like to hear about when you were processing such large number of arrests, how that all went, lessons learned perhaps for that. Also about your leadership team, how your strategic plan, your goals and objectives, training, monitoring threats across the campus as well. We've talked a little bit about garage security. I don't know if you want to touch on that today. That's always an issue, something that we all met about again recently, and I know you've met with many members about that, as well as our Sergeant-at-Arms is very, very involved in that as well. So I will also say, before I ask my ranking member to make a comment, I think since the gyrocopter incident, we have all seen, as members of Congress here, a increased amount of communication from the U.S. Capitol Police on various incidents. In fact, we probably get almost more information than we need sometimes, but more is better. And so I'm certainly very appreciative of that. I don't think any member wants to be in a position where we're watching something unfold on the Capitol lawn, on whether it's Fox News or CNN or whatever you're watching. So that, I think, is very much appreciated as well. And so this committee, of course, Chief, is here to assist the Capitol Police because we all share a common goal, and that's protecting U.S. Capitol campus and everyone who works here, and certainly all of the visitors, millions of visitors that come here each and every year. So we certainly thank the Chief for his appearance here today. We're looking forward to his testimony. I'd like to recognize my ranking member, Mr. Brady, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for holding this very important hearing this morning. Good to see you, Chief. Thank you for being here.
Morning, sir.
I have a longer statement for the record, but then I want to comment, but I want to comment briefly and thank the Chief for how visible he has been with the congressional community. Your predecessor was here 3.5 years. I think I met him one time toward the end of his tenure. You've been here 3 months. I met with you 4 times. I appreciate that. As a son of a police officer, I know how hard your job can be. And I've heard from rank and file members about a positive change in the tone at the top of the organization, and my staff advised me that we are all working very well together. So thank you for that. I'd also like to thank you for traveling to Philadelphia last month and for taking the time to meet with our mayor, Jim Kenney, and myself to talk about congressional security at the convention. And I would like to mention, for this to the benefit of my Republican colleagues, that our security professionals in Philadelphia were very impressed with the chief and our sergeant at arms. I thank him for coming up and seeing us in Philadelphia, who, again, shows the proper respect to all our members, and we appreciate you. So that will speak very well for you in your convention in Cleveland also. Thank you for your service, and look forward to hearing from your statement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank the gentleman. I think both of those conventions are going to go absolutely smooth, right? Just smooth. Any other member wish to make an opening statement or comment? Okay, let me formally introduce the chief. On March 21st, 2016, Chief was sworn in as the new chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. Chief Federosa is the 9th chief and had been serving as the assistant chief of police since April of 2015. The chief has served in numerous roles with the U.S. Capitol Police since 1986, including positions in the Uniformed and Patrol Division, the Internal Affairs Division, the Training Services Bureau. In addition, he commanded the U.S. Capitol Police's Review Task Force before becoming assistant chief. And as chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, Chief Federosa is responsible for commanding a force of sworn and civilian personnel who are dedicated to providing comprehensive law enforcement, security, and protective operations services to the U.S. Congress. Members, staff, and as I said, millions of annual visitors as well, and to the surrounding complex also. So again, we certainly thank you for joining us, Chief. We have your written testimony. You can, the floor is yours. Take as much time as you need. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you, ma'am. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. Good morning, members, and thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee to discuss the United States Capitol Police. I'm joined here today by the department's Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Richard Braddock, Deputy Chief Richard Rudd, Deputy Chief Fred Rogers, and also Deputy Chief Chad Thomas, who is staffing the airwaves right now, watching operations while I'm here. Also with me is our General Counsel, Gretchen DeMar, and from the and members of representatives from the Department's Office of Inspector General. Also, I'd like to welcome other members of my executive management team, and also attending today, and I appreciate their presence here today, are FOP Chairman Jim Konzos of our Labor Committee, and Gus Papathanasio, who is the Vice Chairman, first Vice Chairman. Also with us are members of the Teamsters, our other union who we work with on a daily basis. I'd like to thank the committee for their steadfast support of the United States Capitol Police. The regular discussions that we have with you and your staff about our programs and management of our mission are greatly valued, and I'm very grateful for the committee's engagement and feedback so that we can continuously meet the needs and expectations of Congress. Secondly, I'd like to recognize the men and women of the United States Capitol Police. Every day they publicly demonstrate how American freedoms that we all hold dear are carried out in our nation's capital. They work tirelessly to ensure that the Congress can conduct its legislative responsibilities without disruption, all the while exhibiting the utmost respect for the Constitution and the protection of First Amendment liberties. I'm thoroughly impressed with their performance, of which is both seen and unseen by the public and the community. And I'm thankful for their desire to constantly rise to the occasion and handle whatever comes our way. I've been in federal law enforcement for over 30 years, serving in a number of roles, and now as Chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, I have the responsibility to you, to the members of Congress, the Capitol Police Board, the congressional staff, the visitors, and my employees to do everything possible to protect and safeguard everyone every day in a unique and open environment. The threats and risks we face today are dynamic, they're changing, they're sophisticated, and they create a greater need for focus on national security. Coordinating with the Capitol Police Board and consulting with our committees of jurisdiction, including this committee, the Committee on House Administration, we have developed a 4-year strategy that provides for growth of the department to fulfill 3 new mission sets in an effort to further enhance the successful long-term protection of the Capitol complex. These mission sets are the result of a constant threat analysis, including intelligence gathered by our partners globally and nationally. And these These initiatives consist of the following: enhanced garage security, as we've talked about on several occasions, pre-screeners and additional Overwatch personnel at various building access points, and also further use of the enhanced portal screeners that we've employed for the first time during the State of the Union. Members and staff will see several enhancements as a result of the 3 initiatives. There will be a visible security screening at house garage entry points and a more significant officer presence outside Capitol Complex doors and access points, including additional canine teams and subject interdiction officers. Visitors entering the House chamber for major events will undergo additional screening through enhanced portal scanners, further keeping potential threats away from the House of Representatives and the floor of the House. There's been much discussion regarding resources for the department and the long-term viability of these initiatives. As the Chief of Police and as a steward of the taxpayers' dollars, it's my fiduciary responsibility to look at every possibility within existing assets to accomplish our mission before I seek additional assets and resources. The Congress has been very generous to the department, and I will do my due diligence to first look within and not request something that unless it is truly needed. One of the tough decisions I've had to make to meet the new mission sets within our current resources is to find staffing to accomplish some of the additional screening requirements within our existing budget. To do this, and after discussing my concept with Chairman Konzos of the FOP Labor Committee, I've determined that it's most appropriate to modify some of our off-post time rotations in the Uniformed Services Bureau from the current standard of a 1 to 4 rotation to a 1 to 5 during shifts when the majority of officers are working, Monday through Friday, day and evenings. This will make additional manpower available and will result in only approximately 10 minutes less off-post time or standby time for employees. While these enhancements with these enhancements come important opportunities. The modification of off-post rotations will result in more specialty job opportunities for employees throughout the department, specifically in the area of canine and subject interdiction. These officers will provide police coverage in zones outside access points to the complex. I should note that this change does not alter the long-standing contractual obligations with our CBA, and the off-post time remains well above the minimum required by the collective bargaining agreement for the purposes of conducting in-service training, allowing for appropriate relief time for officers who routinely are focused on working the security equipment. With some additional resources, they will be necessary in the out years to complete the initiatives and to provide stationary posts. I'm confident in the department's ability to meet these new mission sets, and we will continue to look for ways to offset any cost and potential reapportionment of how we assign personnel. In the months ahead, we have a number of high-profile protective events that will require much attention and manpower resources. Later this month, the annual Memorial Day rehearsal and concert will take place, followed by the 4th of July celebration on the west front of the Capitol. In July, the department will also be focusing its attention on the 2 presidential nominating conventions in Cleveland, Ohio, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where we'll be protecting members of Congress. In addition, we are officially planning the 58th inaugural of the President of the United States, which takes place on January 20th, 2017. While this national special security event takes place on Capitol grounds every 4 years, it's prudent and necessary to begin preparations early enough to ensure absolute success in the execution of this significant mission set. As a former commander of the department's policy and planning operations, I fully understand the importance of setting meaningful performance metrics focused on outcomes rather than outputs. We are currently in the process of building the foundation to better collect, analyze, and share the data that we collect department-wide with the ultimate goal of having information that allows my staff to be better informed and making management and security decisions. The department is also actively engaged in addressing and resolving recommendations made by the Office of the Inspector General. Since 2006, the USCP Inspector General has made 310 recommendations to the department, We've closed 255 by fully implementing the recommendations. We are actively working on closing the remaining 55 open recommendations, and annually I will continue to propose key areas for the Inspector General to examine so that she and her team can assist me in making needed changes that will make us a better department. Excuse me. In closing, I want to share with you some of my priorities for the near term. I've always believed that the department's mission is simple yet extremely critical. I want to get back to the basics and not overcomplicate policing. I want to leverage existing resources in the law enforcement community to become smarter and more efficient, especially in the area of intelligence gathering. I plan to place a greater emphasis on training to help our workforce remain focused and to fight complacency, and to ensure that supervisors are prepared to manage. These are the basic areas that I will focus on during the next year. Finally, I think it's important to discuss and mention the March 28, 2016 shooting incident in the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center. From all practical perspectives, I want to say that the screening process works. And on that day, we had an individual intent on wreaking havoc. He was detected to be carrying a weapon during the process we employ each day to screen people visiting the Capitol complex. We were prepared, we responded appropriately, and it should serve as a lesson to others who may want to come to the Hill to do harm. Our highly trained officers will stop those individuals who wish to do us harm. I'm extremely proud of the officers involved in this incident, and I'm grateful to our partner agencies for their assistance, both throughout the event and following the incident. Again, thank you for the opportunity to testify here today about the United States Capitol Police. I'm truly humbled to be here, and I would be pleased to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Chief. I would ask, we mentioned about better communication from the U.S. Capitol Police to all the members of Congress, but if you could perhaps expand on that a bit of how your agency communicates and how you work with your brother agencies here locally. For instance, when we had the Navy Yard incident, and just communicating with the D.C. police or other agencies as well. How is that all working?
Certainly. We have a very good relationship with our partner agencies here in D.C., particularly the Metropolitan Police, the United States Park Police, the United States Secret Service, Federal Protective Service, Supreme Court Police. We have communications, interoperable communications with our partner agencies. We have a direct switch line to the Secret Service, the Metropolitan Police, the Park Police. We work very closely we're embedded with several FBI task forces, the JTTF, and we have an ongoing relationship with the Supreme Court and the Federal Protective Service, and they actually man our command center on a regular basis, on a daily basis, so that we have direct communications. We also work with other agencies on an ad hoc basis. We have interoperable radio communications with most of the local agencies, and we're working to solidify further the ability to communicate directly from a command perspective. We meet regularly with the Metropolitan Police and their law enforcement partners meeting every Monday. I attend various meetings, as do my subordinate officials, at a multitude of levels on a multitude of issues regarding the ongoing law enforcement issues, threats, and events that are occurring throughout the District of Columbia. We certainly have lessons learned from all of these major events, including the Navy Yard, the second Navy Yard incident, and the difference between the first and second in terms of communication was extreme. Incident command, as a matter of fact, Deputy Chief Rogers was the incident commander for the Capitol, command post representative for the United States Capitol Police during that second ongoing Navy Yard issue. So we all employ incident command system processes for leadership and command, area command, and we communicate on a regular and daily basis during events and during the off times. Offshoot of some of the gyrocopter incident was communication with the community. We have improved our messaging matrix, and I apologize if we give you too much. I'd rather have you have too much than too little. Obviously, it's important that you know what's going on for situational awareness and for the effect that incidents have on the legislative process. We take great strides to make sure that you have the information that you need, both on the House side and the Senate side. We are looking, we shortly will have a joint congressional messaging process that is being worked on jointly with all of the stakeholders. And I look forward to that. So that will cut out some of the, if there is delay, it'll certainly cut out redundancy and it'll be more efficient.
You know, if I could ask just one other question, Chief, and I appreciate the answer to the first one, but, you know, we talk about investment with the U.S. Capitol Police, and certainly there's no second for investing in people and all kinds of technology that can assist you, resourcing you properly. I'll tell you, the K-9s are unbelievable. I mean, what a critical component. I mean, those dogs can just find things that no computer can, it seems like, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How do you do with the K-9s? Do you need more of them? Is that an area of, how do you see that unfolding in future?
We are expanding our K-9 capability by 6 dogs in the near term. Part of that is the traditional EOD type sweeps, and we have some other new techniques that we use, which I'd be happy to discuss offline, which will just contribute to being a force multiplier for us in terms of what we do. Absolutely, the dogs are invaluable. They can do many things that humans can't. They detect things at long distances. They can detect things that we obviously would not know were there. So we do literally hundreds of thousands of sweeps every year with the dogs, and again, they're invaluable to us. We have a very, we currently have an opening in our, and we get tremendous competition for the openings in the K-9 unit. It's really, truly incredible.
Right. Thank you very much. I recognize our ranking member, Mr. Brady.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, as you know, I do represent Philadelphia, and thank you for your visit. That's where the Democratic National Convention will take place, but I would like for you to discuss your preparations from the Capitol Police perspective, not only in Philadelphia, but also in Cleveland. What were your preparations there?
Absolutely. Our convention planning is well underway. We've been working, our Dignitary Protection Division has the lead. They employ, the Secret Service is the lead planner for both events, both in Philadelphia and in Cleveland. As part of the NSSE broad approach and committee approach, we've planned these events within that framework. So we have employed the NSSE framework for any number of major events, including previous conventions, State of the Union addresses, and the inaugurals. And it's really a sound system that we cover all bases. Our Dignitary Protection Division has made multiple visits to both venues, both cities. They have procured the requisite lodging, and we are in the process of designing the security plan for the specific venues, both the actual convention venues and any ancillary venues that for events that are occurring outside the main venue. I appreciate the opportunity to travel to Philadelphia and meet with you, and I appreciate the introduction that you gave us to the Philadelphia officials. It helped me tremendously in my ability to communicate the message to my troops and to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do. We are going to be traveling to either myself or representatives along with the House Sergeant-at-Arms and other stakeholders to Cleveland in the very near future, just as we did in the Philadelphia trip. We will continue to work with our law enforcement partners, both state, local, and federal, to ensure that the security plan for the member protection, and that's the reason we're going to be there, to make sure that the members of Congress have a safe event and we can protect the interests of our statutory protectees. We will continue to regularly brief the Capitol Police Board, and my staff is available to brief the committee at your request on the status of the planning.
Thank you, Chief. Also, it goes without saying, the people you brought here, you're having a pretty good relationship with with the other unions, the Teamsters and the police unions. But, and I also know because they're not knocking down my door, and I have been for the last 3 years, every other month coming in and, trying to complain about what we can do to be helpful. That's not happening, so I know you're doing a good job. But just tell me, how often do you meet with your reps?
I meet with Chairman Konzos and his team. It's about every 2 weeks. But in between, his staff and my staff are working on issues. Dominic Storelli, former of House Administration, is my chief of staff, and he works directly with Jim on a number of issues. I meet on a number of issues, whether it's contract negotiations or just daily grievance-type issues. The philosophy for me, and I've known Chairman Konzos and Gus Papathanassio for many years, particularly Jim for almost 30 years, and we have a mutual respect for each other's positions. I've asked Jim to be here today, and I appreciate his attendance. Since I was appointed, we've reinstituted the regular meetings. I plan on continuing the regular meetings. We also believe, I think we both believe, that there's significant common ground that we can address issues, try to resolve issues at the lowest level before they become grievances, and we work on things of mutual interest. Of course, we'll probably disagree on some issues, but I think we have the kind of relationship that we'll be able to work through those issues in an amicable way and try to do what's best for the Congress.
Thank you, Chief, and thank the men for the job that you do every single day, and it's a pleasure to be working with you. Madam Chair, I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Harper is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chief, thank you for being here. I know this has been a very sobering weekend with the memorial service. It was Sunday, and how that, I know, means so much to you, and your attendance we greatly appreciate. You know, last week the House passed some important bills, and one of which was the fund the Bulletproof Vest program to help local law enforcement with that life-saving bulletproof vest, to help on those funding issues there. And I know you and I had the opportunity to meet. I want to thank you for coming to my office and for us having that opportunity. And as I told you in that meeting, if I had an issue or a problem, I'm going to come to you and we'll discuss it. I won't be running to the press to talk about it. You and I will have a chance to do that, and I want to reiterate that here. But what can we do as a committee and as individual members of Congress to help you do your job? And I'm not talking about the funding issues.
Sure.
What else can we do?
I thank you for meeting with me both privately and for your comments today, sir. I appreciate the committee's support on initiatives, on whether it's garage security or portal scanners or any of the other issues that come up. When it's interesting because it's such a large institution and I have a very large workforce, sometimes it takes a little while for information to filter down. We're working on the communication piece, but it's also incumbent on us to assist the Sergeant-at-Arms on both sides and the leadership to communicate the message of any changes that we do. Change has not come easy for people, both within the department and in general. I know that I have a 24-year-old. It's hard to change anything and without an argument or a reason. I have to explain my reasoning, and I try to do that because it's the right thing to do. I want to be able to communicate changes, and that's one of the reasons that I do meet with the union leadership. I want to have that open communication, but I also want to have that with the community, and I intend to continue to visit member offices and try to advise you all, everybody, and both on the committee and off, on what we're doing and why we do things. Because I think if you have the information, it helps sell the message, and it helps us change sort of the mindset, whether we're going to institute new operations or new procedures. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come to the members and be able to explain why we do things. I think it's important to maintain that communication.
Chief, firearm qualifications, certifications are very important, and I know we're in an interim here.
Yes.
With the range being out of place. Tell me what you're doing in the interim and how the new facility will be an improvement over the old.
Appreciate the question, sir. We are in our current cycle, even though we're off-site. In the interim, while our range is down and we're preparing for the reopening of the new range, I want to thank the Congress and the architect for providing the funds and the space and the ability to have a range that is so close to where we work. What it does for us is it helps us minimize the impact of having our sworn workforce off the grounds in a status that's either not working or in training. It's travel time. It really helps us to have the range here. We had the old range in the Rayburn for about over 50 years, and we got tremendous amount of use out of the range, and I couldn't even quantify how much time and effort we saved by having the range locally. And our goal is to have the new range open up soon by Labor Day and have it in use for at least another 50 years. It will certainly outlast me. But so far in this cycle, we have qualified 87% of the police department. Now, we've reaped some benefit, even though there's a little bit of cost associated with sending them out to Cheltenham, Maryland, where our entry-level academy is. We have maximized the use of that time by continuing the training day, so we send officers out for the entire day rather than have them traveling back to the Hill. So we leverage the ability to use some more of our training time during that extra day. I look forward to having the range back here on the Hill, though, as you can see, we probably will be able to finish our current cycle by June 1st, hopefully, if not sometime in June, and then we'll move on to the second. We have biannual, semi-annual qualification, so we shoot twice a year in the fiscal year, and we are a little bit off the cycle. However, with the indulgence of the stakeholders, we have a great plan to get the range up and running, and it really will provide us with the ability to change how we train. It's a dynamic range, and it's really helpful for us to be able to tactically use a range.
Great. Thank you, Chief, and I yield back.
Chair recognizes Ms. Lofgren.
Thanks very much, and welcome to you, Chief. It's good to meet you, and I'm hoping that at some point we can have a closed session with the Chief, because there are some questions that probably wouldn't be smart to ask in a public environment, but that we should get the answers to. Just two things. I was concerned in discussing this with the prior Chief that although there was communication with other law enforcement agencies, there didn't appear to be a written mutual aid protocol. And so I'm interested in not going through it today, but in reviewing that with you in terms of the protocol, what it is, and how it's communicated to our workforce, number one. And number two, I'm wondering if the department has ideas on how the physical layout of the plant might, the campus, might be adjusted to enhance safety and also to enhance the capacity of your members to do their job.
Certainly the physical security is one of our main issues. We have a very robust physical security Security Services Bureau, and they handle all of the physical security aspects, working very closely with the architect of the Capitol. The measures that were put in place post 9/11 have really, we are at the life cycle end of a lot of the life. We're looking at doing life cycle replacement. Of course, it's always a very expensive issue, but it's certainly something that is very necessary.
Let me interrupt, because I don't think I was clear on my question. For example, where is the perimeter? You can't really, I mean, we respect the Fourth Amendment. You have to have a rationale for inquiring, but at the perimeter of a facility, you don't. So where are the perimeters set, and how should they be set?
Sure.
And how would that make a difference for your troops? In terms of level of securities in garages, we have garages that, you know, have nothing above them. We have garages that have, you know, an office building
Yes.
above them, how, what kind of deployment makes sense in each one. Those are the things I was
Sure.
thinking of.
Absolutely. Of course, we always balance the open campus with the level of security that we provide, and it's very important to maintain, and it's very difficult. You're absolutely right. It's a very difficult balance for our officers. We don't have a physical fence. We don't have structures that prevent people from walking across the east front, west front. We use our human intuitive capability, and we deploy personnel, obviously within the framework of the infrastructure, whether it's the Olmsted Wall or whether it's physical barriers that we install, bollards, barriers that pop up for vehicular threats and those types of things. We have to be obviously very cognizant of the effect that security has on the openness and the ability for constituents to visit members.
Of course.
And it's a very huge competing interest in the security issue. So we focus our main thrust and concentration on the largest threats, and we're always looking for the individual threat, which is one of the greatest threats that we have these days, the individual. But we have to balance it and accept a modicum of risk in terms of the physical structures that we put in to prevent people from approaching the building. We do work very closely with both this committee and the Senate Rules Committee, Committee on Rules and Administration, so to work on those issues, whether it's expanding the perimeter, allowing access close into the building, or whether it's initiatives to do inspection of things that people bring with them to the grounds. So it's a very tenuous line that we walk, and we take it very hard look at any type of procedure we're going to employ that could come close to, could be perceived as a violation of the Fourth Amendment. We certainly don't want to do anything that would be contrary to the Constitution. So it's a work in progress. We work on it continually. It's a conversation that I have with the Capitol Police Board on a regular basis, and we will continue to have with the committees of jurisdiction.
Well, I see my time has expired. Perhaps we can pursue this further.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Nugent.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate you holding this, and Chief, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate your time when you came up to visit with me in the office. And what a different approach, I'll just say this, and I'm not blowing smoke, but what a different approach in regards to your approach and the prior chief with inclusion of the union in a weekly or whenever it's necessary discussion. Typically you're going to probably agree on more things than you're going to disagree, but you're always going to have disagreements. Right. I mean, that happens in the best of families. But at the end of the day, the rank and file folks out there doing the job every day have some great ideas. And I think that you're moving absolutely in the right direction. And I think we'll be much safer as members of Congress because of that collaboration between the two groups. One of the things, that still strikes me when we go back and look at past history, and we had the chief here discuss that, particularly when we had, loss of weapons and things like that. But reading an article where the person who sent the picture got how many months off without pay and demoted, and the person who actually left the weapon unattended in a location that could be accessed by other folks received a suspension, but relatively minor in scope. And I guess I'm still a little miffed at the fact that that supervisor got demoted, but then also had a huge suspension without pay. And I understand it's in litigation, so you probably can't talk about it. But I would hope just in the future that what that person did is actually brought out an issue that needed to be under the light of day, so we all know. and we all, take confidence in what goes on within the Capitol Police. And I'll go along with Mr. Brady on this. I've not had any negative comments with the union at all, which is, that's a testament to your leadership. I'll just be very blunt with that. It's a testament to your leadership, and I hope that continues. One of the things that I know we talked about was, management by walking around, is walking around your organization and listening to the folks that you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, and I would suggest that your leadership team do the same, and I'm sure they are under your leadership. One of the things Ms. Lofgren had mentioned is, security, and I think that's an issue that we all grapple with from, time to time. And you're right, we have an open campus, but what exactly, as we move forward in regards to the underground facilities, I know that the equipment's in place. When are we actually going to start to do that screening?
We'll be doing the security screening with the appropriate communication first, very soon. I can't give you a specific date. I'm working with Mr. Irving, the Sergeant at Arms, and we want to time it right so that we introduce the screening process. I know that we've had some community meetings with the staff several weeks ago in terms of how we would roll it out. And I'm working very closely with Mr. Irving on exactly when we want to do it strategically so we cause the least amount of disruption to the business process of the community. But I would expect sometime in the next several weeks that we will do it, and we'll certainly communicate it. I got that message loud and clear. We're going to make sure that we properly communicate, make sure everyone's aware of what we're going to do. I do appreciate your comments about working with the union, sir. I respect the troops. I consider myself first and foremost a police officer, and I'm prepared every time out on the street to take police action. I don't have it today because I'm wearing this blouse, but I carry my radio every day. I monitor the radio, and I take police action when I need to. And I have tremendous respect for the work that we do here. I ask a lot of the troops. They are ambassadors. They still have to enforce the rules and the law, and they deal with 10 to 12 million people a year. And that's just screening them through the process. There's probably another 10 million who walk through the grounds that we talk to, we interact with. And I'm always amazed at how few complaints that we get from the citizens and the staff about courtesy or those types of things. They truly are ambassadors. They do hard work.
They are.
They're focused on the x-ray machines and the magnetometers, and it's, knowing that every time that they have to be 100%, they have to be sharp. So I appreciate members of both unions being here today, and I appreciate the relationship I have with the officers. I always hope to have a positive relationship. Obviously, there are things that we're going to disagree on, and I have to make tough decisions and tough choices that affect people, but I never fall short of understanding that these are people. They're not numbers. They have families, they have ambition, they have interests, and to me, I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. I'm not making a moral judgment on any previous chief or anybody else. It's just my approach to how I work with my staff, and I have leaders and deputy chiefs and civilian directors who are out with the troops. And I appreciate that comment as well because they're good role models. They're out amongst their troops. Again, we make management decisions, and they're tough decisions, and not everyone agrees on the best approach to how we get to that bottom line. But the officers are a great resource. A great example of that is processing the 1,300 or so arrests that we had a couple of weeks ago. During the Democracy Spring demonstration period. Now, this was nonviolent civil disobedience. It was non-confrontational for the most part, and it took a lot of planning and effort and a lot of manpower. And it's not me making the arrests. It's the officers that come in early. It's the officers that have to be the arresting officer, and it's the people who do the job that I respect. I have so much respect for because really I've worked the posts and I've done those jobs, and You know, it's on a Sunday, sometimes you got to come in, you got to wake up early, and you'd rather be doing something else. But hey, it's why we get paid the big bucks, and they do a tremendous job. But we took a concept and a new approach on how we handle mass arrests. Other agencies in the city have had the ability to cite and release people. Traditionally here, with the way the rules are set up and the laws, we've had to have full custody arrests for most of the arrestees that we handle, even in mass arrest, civil disobedience situations. And it's tremendous in terms of time and effort. These are the same troops during that week that had to go day to day for about 10 days and be the same people being brought in early to handle these arrests. So we took a concept that I thought could be employed. We borrowed and adapted the Metropolitan Police's PD 61D cite and release forms, their policy. We adapted them to ours. We worked with the Attorney General for the District of Columbia to make sure that we were using the appropriate charges. And when the law changed in 2013, it made it easier for us to use this process. So we employed it, and we were able to expedite the process. But the reason I bring this up is it really wasn't me. I had the concept, but the officers are the ones who took, even from the first day we had arrests, it took about 8 hours to process 429 people. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of time, but when you look at how we would still probably be processing these arrests had we been using the old method, the old mass arrest method. In that short duration of 1 week, the officers came up with a great idea with a couple of the lieutenants who were running the mission set and expedited the process. So by the end of that week, we processed 300 arrests in 3 hours, which is just phenomenal. And we had very few issues. And we will further refine the process based on the suggestions of the officers. So I agree with you that some of the best ideas come up from the ranks and rise through the ranks. So I'm very appreciative of the effort of everybody on the CDU, the Civil Disturbance Unit. Switching gears on you for 1 second, and yes, the case in the paper is in litigation. I would prefer not to talk about it, but the individual was on administratively with pay, was not without pay.
Okay.
For that period of time.
Okay.
Just wanted to
I
set the
appreciate
record straight on that.
And Chief, thanks for your comments. I appreciate the indulgence of the chair, and maybe you ought to talk to your counterpart in the TSA in regards to listening to people that work there and be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Fargus.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to ask a few questions. First of all, I'd like to thank you once again for meeting with me in my office, letting me know what you're doing and what you're planning to do, and I appreciate that. That was very helpful. Thank you. Secondly, you weren't here earlier, but I thank the Capitol Police. I think you've been doing a really terrific job, and I appreciate that. I did want to mention one incident that we had here. A colleague of ours fell hard during one of the snowstorms and hurt himself. He was found by another colleague of ours, who then quickly got a couple of police officers here, Capitol Police, to bring him inside, and they were very smart to figure out that he had some chest pains and didn't let him walk away as he wanted to walk away and said, no, we're calling the medics, and they did, and they got the medical response team to come, and again, appreciate their very professional work, and you know, we would have probably allowed him to walk away, and that would have been a very bad idea. So again, I think the police did a fantastic job, and I want to thank them for that. I do want to ask a little bit about the issue of the open campus. You know, when I've been to the Bundestag in Germany, and they do put a fence around. It's very difficult to access it. We see more and more they have fence, and now it's a double fence over around the front of the White House. Obviously, that gives you a lot of protection, but it also prevents people from actually accessing the White House, which at one point they had access to. So there is a balance there. And I think it is important to give people the opportunity to come and visit their members of Congress and the Senate. But you know, it is also interesting, the issue of security, not so much even for us, but those people that do come and visit us. Sure. And so anyway, I appreciate that you said you give that a lot of interest, a lot of thought. Could you comment a little bit more on that, if you will? Sure.
We do try to leverage technology to the extent that we can, and believe me, again, the force multiplier, technology, The systems, some of the systems that I prefer not to talk about in an open forum, but they're there for us to use, and we do use them, and we deploy them very effectively. I think as technology increases and the quality of the technology, I think we'll be able to leverage that. Obviously, there's no replacement for having an officer on the beat, on a fixed post, or in a patrol area that will focus on the security, particularly close in. You know, we take a sort of a layered approach. We want to keep the threat as far away as we can. We push it out, and as you get closer to the concentric circle, you want to you want to have your assets. We do leverage even the physical security aspects where we have barriers and kiosks. We have posts staffed, and we use the buildings as sort of funnels, and you know, we can sort of keep eyes on people and individuals who approach from the various directions. But again, we never want to trample on the ability for people to visit. I'm not advocating putting up a fence or anything like that. I think with our troops and, you know, a focus and an approach where we maintain our vigilance in terms of looking at the threat, training our employees to what to look for, and being able to make sure that the troops are fresh and they are able to react appropriately. I think with training and staffing, that combination along with the physical security attributes that we have, we've been provided with to protect the campus, I think that, you know, the ongoing conversation will continue with the Capitol Police Board and with the committees to ensure that we have all the things that we need, particularly technologically, that will help us and assist us so that we can leverage that without sort of closing the campus off. So I know that it's sort of a work in progress as the technology changes every day. We want to be able to stay ahead of the curve, and we want to keep our finger on the pulse in terms of what's available to us to sort of use to leverage as a force multiplier.
Well, again, thank you very much. And last thing, I know my time's about up, that I'd like to say this, even though they do monitor the threat, they're very polite and professional too. And I appreciate that. I know I've commented a couple people in particular, and I again appreciate their professionalism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank the gentleman. And Chief, again, we just want to thank you so much for coming today. We all are very desirous of looking forward to working with you shoulder to shoulder, not just you, but your management team and all the rank and file. The union fellows that are here are representing all the rank and files, and just know that we appreciate it. Every one of us is coming into these offices and these office buildings, the Capitol, every day. We watch your folks day in and day out and do their job so professionally and bravely and well. And we all have a very high degree of comfort and security about the professionalism of the brave men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police Force. And this committee stands by to assist you. And one thing I would say, and I know I've said this to you privately, I'll say it publicly as well, don't sometimes wait for a hearing or wait for us to, you know, come forward with something. We really want to know from you if there's a shortfall somewhere that you see as a particularly critical element of something that we better be aware of, we need to help with. That's why we're here. So we all work together.
I sincerely appreciate the support and how cooperative the staff have been with me when I want to bring forward, if I want to come meet with the members. I really sincerely appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witness, if we have any, and we'll forward them, ask the chief to respond as promptly as he can, so that any answers could be made part of the record. Without objection, this hearing is adjourned.